The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you will dive into our starting five shout-outs. Couple of topics to get into. Your holiday Husker wish list. Good stuff from the Common Fan Pod. And we've got some ideas. It is also Festivus for Seinfeld fans out there. So can air your public grievances. 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Your Husker Festivus grievances.
Or your Hail Varsity Radio grievances.
You can do that too. Some of the grievances are already in the comments, stream-wise. Some reaction to the portal additions over the weekend for Nebraska. We'll talk a little Nebraska, Boston College. We'll get some thoughts from Blackshirt Husker Jay Moore. In hour two, it's a Monday with Charlie, Mr. Blackshirt. Charlie McBride going to be with us as we'll get coach's thoughts on the bowl game and some of the pickups on the defensive side of the ball from Uncle Charlie. And then Tim Verghese with us from Inside Nebraska. Rivals. Tim going to talk some recruiting with us. As far as the portal recruiting goes and just kind of his feel for New York City. Coming up, Huskers have landed. They're already at the New York Giants training facility, off and running for bowl practice on site. So we'll tackle it all. This is our final show of the week till Friday. And then Friday, we hope to see all of you up at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. It's a road show Friday, kind of pre-bowl eve show 4 to 6. We'll hit that glorious Hail Varsity parlay. This time, we will deliver a winner and some money. We'll ask for your help on that. But we're there 4 to 6 right outside of Amerisports on Friday, 4 to 6. So we're back at it Friday, and then we'll get you ready for the pre-bowl edition of the weekend edition of Hail Varsity. So we'll be on 7:45-ish Saturday morning. Take you as long as you want. Up right before kick at 11, and then Real Red Reaction one more time. Play it again following Nebraska Boston College. 489-1240. To get in. Who's with us to get it kicked off?
Give you two guesses.
It is Steve.
It is.
Steve, we have been passing along some of your eats and some hot spots in New York City, so the audience is thankful for that. How are you doing?
Well, Tristan, Elijah, I'm doing pretty good, notwithstanding the loss of the Husker volleyball women's team, but they'll certainly be back. And just to make it perfectly clear, your program indeed is number one. Two quick things. Let's hope our Cornhusker football team can deliver the goods. And we're going to have great insight from your number one ranked radio show. And number two, in closing, let's hope that the men's Nebraska basketball team can win in Hawaii tonight. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, they held old Murray State to a whopping 14 points last night. KP and Mr. Mielheisen are beach-bound, bless their soul. And the Big Red going to try and take Hawaii down in Hawaii. That can get a little ugly with the Zebras from time to time if memory serves.
What is cool about this one, Robin Washit reported on this earlier, is this is going to be considered a road game, not a neutral site.
Good.
Despite the fact that it's a neutral site tournament, Hawaii's the hosting team, so it's a true road game.
Yeah.
Either way, it was going to be quad 3, but that might change as the year goes on. You never know.
Yeah, well, we'll see what Hawaii does.
We're already talking quad wins and whatnot in December.
Help jog my memory, and this is a name from a million years back. Christian Stans Hardinger, remember him? No? Yes?
No. Who? Where did I know him from?
We played for Nebraska, but I think he transferred to Hawaii.
I think he's before my time.
No, he's not like my era growing up as a kid. He's not the Van Polgeest, Brian Carr era.
Can you say his name again?
Christian Stans Hardinger, I think so. he left the program, but I think he ended up in Hawaii, and he may have drilled Nebraska in a revenge game, perhaps the last time Nebraska played Hawaii.
Oh, Christian Stan Harninger.
Yeah.
Played with Nebraska 2009 to 2011.
Right. Did he go to Hawaii, or did he come from Hawaii?
Went to Hawaii.
Okay, so I'm not high. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he played for a professional team in Germany before coming to the United States and had to be sit out 15 games.
Something like that, yeah.
And then he was suspended by Doc Sadler his sophomore year.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. I can see why I don't remember him.
Yeah, you blacked that one out on purpose?
I was 10 years old and he barely played. Spent more time on the bench than on the floor.
Vicious, aren't you?
Am I wrong? Oh, he's suspended because he played professionally, and then he's suspended for academic reasons. He barely was on the floor.
Well, I don't know if it was all purely academic.
That's what the Wikipedia article says, so we'll go with that.
See, we got this might be Christian calling in. I don't know. We'll get to our starting 5 shout-outs here. Justin in first. Justin, God love you. Thanks. The other Dave is here. Uncle Jimmy is in. Uncle Jimmy said, I wasted my Saturday hoping for good college football games. Uncle Jimmy, at least we had college football games. I mean, it didn't make me tear up to see Sig get lit up after he shot his mouth off about how great his Hoosiers were going to be. Jeff Snitley is in, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Mike in from California. Jay is here. Black Hills Brennan says, Merry Christmas Eve. Back at you. Black Hills Tracy. I love it. All right, Tracy is in. Good to have you, Black Hills Tracy. QB1 Ace checks in from Arkansas. Anonymous is here, says 27 days until Ohio State wins the national title. 28 days till Ryan Day says, I'm out of here and goes to the NFL. Anonymous also says the Washington State guy played right tackle and missed several games with injuries. We've got a couple of guys that already fit that bill, plus have already played left tackle. Mr. Erickson is here. Great Red Shark is in. Good to have you. NASCAR Eric says, what's up? Good to have you, NASCAR Eric. Ronnie is here. Andrew is in. 3-putt says, what's up? And Scott is here. Good to have Scott checking in. Bruce from Spearfish is here. Says, Anonymous says, I guess we've gone through the airing of grievances, so on, and the feats of strength, for sure. So we'll air some of our grievances here momentarily when it comes to Nebraska football, but we'll also hit the wish list. It wasn't all brutal. That was not Christian Stan Harninger on the phone?
No, it was not.
Okay. Skylar is here. Good to have Skylar. The real Matthew also checks in and says hello. So, lot to get to. We'll start off with, it is Festivus. It is the airing of grievances. Let's see if Mr. Costanza can take it away.
The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it. You, Kruger, my son tells me your company stinks.
Oh, God.
Quiet, we'll get yours in a minute. Kruger, you couldn't smooth a silk sheet if you had a hot date with a babe.
Thank you, Mr. Costanza.
I lost my train of thought.
So if I'm going to air grievances, and this seems super negative here as we get closer to Christmas, but my biggest grievance with Nebraska football right now isn't the number 6 or the close losses or even special teams. And it's not really fair, but my biggest grievance is third down. Third down 7, and there was just a handful of times the poor defense, as much as they have done, as much as they didn't get off the field. And it's an impossible, talk about feats of strength, it's impossible to be mad at them. I think if you're a Nebraska fan, you can be a little ticked off here and there, but brother, they had to about do it all because they didn't get any relief till 3 games left in the season with the offensive play calling kind of helping carry the weight. Now, when it did come together, offense, defense, special teams, you had your anti-Festivus moment. That was the Colorado game this year. And you had the defense score, the offense looked good, the special teams was solid, and you had a signature win over a team that is knocking on a 10-win door in Colorado. So special teams is absolutely a grievance. Return games, absolutely a grievance. 6 could be 8. 6 could be 7 at minimum. But overall, to me, it's third down. And the other grievance is Nebraska was on the doorstep. They got Colorado, but they had 3 chances. You had a chance to sweep Iowa and Wisconsin this year. You split it, which is better than the alternative. You had a chance to take down Ohio State in a 2-minute situation, couldn't finish it. Indiana, as bad as that game was, you don't fumble at the goal line. You might be up going into half or halfway through the second quarter if I know, 14 or tied. Because at one point that thing was 13-7, right? And then the wheels fell off and you got whacked 56-7. But you hung around in that game as discombobulated and as much on their heels as the defense was. But I've had to circle out all of those grievances. For a 6-6 football team in 2024, it's going to be third down. It's UCLA third down. It's Indiana third down, and those are really 2 swing games right there for me. Now the counter to that, Elijah, is how great the defense was against Colorado. How great the defense was, quite honestly, against Iowa. Except for one play. I mean, so overall, I don't have too much of a bone to pick with the defense, but my biggest grievance is that third down situation.
That's fair. Kind of along the same lines. I was going to say, well, first off, as we were doing show prep, I thought Airing of Grievances was between you and me. So all my preparation is out the window now. I just have
you can take some shots at me.
Kidding.
I don't care. I'll just pour more vodka.
I'm kidding. I've been working with you for 6 years now. If I had grievances,
there's a grievance
gone.
right there. 6 years feels like 60.
It's been my entire adult life, actually. Isn't that weird to think about?
Yet you're still here.
Wonder how that's changed my development into the young man I am today.
Don't be like this, old bastard.
Too late. I would say it's kind of along the same lines. My grievance from the Husker football team this year is the inconsistency of the moments where they played like a top 15 team and the other moments where they played like a 2-10 football team. You saw both sides of it this season. You look at the first half against Colorado, and I know Colorado got better.
Top 15.
But Colorado got better as the year went on. They weren't the same team they were in Lincoln as they were by late October and November. But you played like a top 15 team for the first half against Colorado. And then the second half rolls around and you look like Nebraska we saw in the month of October. I mean, you look at Ohio State. You played like a top 15 team. I don't think Ohio State was on their game that day. But you played really dang well against Ohio State. But why'd you play that well? Because you got the doors beat off you by Indiana and you felt motivated to go into Ohio State and prove, you know what, that's not us. That's my biggest grievance with the football team this year is if they consistently played up to their level, which it's hard to do in a college football season, but with more consistency, it's a team that's 8-9 wins this past season. But you weren't consistent. No. You had the Colorado or the Colorado second half, the Illinois game, the Indiana game, the UCLA game. So even whenever you had your games where you played great, such as Wisconsin, it seemed to get nullified by a game where you were so far from what we knew you could play as. So that's my grievance with the 2024 Huskers.
They kind of are what they are. They are perfect 6-6. So do you change that for 2025 with this bowl game? Scott's grievance would be special teams. Here, absolutely. Black Hills Brennan has his grievance, and it is the long snapping. You have one job to do and do it right. And there were so many grounders to Bashini where when you didn't bomb a field goal, it was because of the snap that threw things off. That was inconsistent. inconsistency. QB1A says, my biggest grievance, losing to Iowa. It's like Groundhog Day in back-to-back seasons.
Another story of inconsistency with the Iowa game. Defense plays great for, the 50 snaps you're out there except for the one.
The grievance is the defense had to play perfect.
That's true. That's
right?
also a great point.
That is absolutely the grievance. So Brian is asking, so Schmidt, are you going to challenge Elijah to wrestle and pin you as the feats of strengths? Too close to the show?
Sign me up.
Yeah. I'm just going to take out 6 years of fury and anger.
Schmidt in an arm bar, 5 p.m.
Elijah's gonna just put some plugs in his ears, and when I'm screaming uncle, he won't hear it. He won't be able to hear it. Tim Verghese all over the portal. What's his take on some of Nebraska's additions? Deshaun McCullough. There's a lot of Nebraska fans smiling about the all-do-it everything guy for Oklahoma, the safety, the linebacker, the edge. It's 6'5". A little Kansas City connection helped make that a reality. What's Tim think of the bowl game? All of that on the way. Coach McBride, Jay Moore, all with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. One show before our bowl preview from Ameristar Friday Roadshow in Council Bluffs at 4 to 6. Tim Verghese with us, Inside Nebraska, Rivals.com. Find and follow Tim. If you don't, at Tim Verghese, check out him and Steve Marek, their YouTube work, as well as what they do with Inside Nebraska. Tim, happy holidays, bud. How we doing?
Hey, happy holidays. Not too bad.
Well, the gift that keeps on giving, dare I see a tweet from Tim Verghese on Deshaun Singleton, getting that grad school work or that super senior treatment. Tell me more.
Yeah, I'm still figuring this out. The wording on all of this is a little confusing. If I'm to understand this correctly, as long as you fit within the 5 year, the 5 years of eligibility, all players that have spent a year or two at JUCO essentially get next year back. So if I'm to understand this correctly, if Deshaun Singleton wants it, he could be back in 2025 because he played his freshman season at Hutchinson Community College, spent the last 3 years at Nebraska. He does technically have that fifth, again, hypothetical redshirt year available that he could now use as like a blanket year of eligibility.
Interesting. From a Deshaun Singleton point of view, do you think another year in college makes sense for him? Obviously, he had the injury against Michigan last year that really shortened his season. This year, I'm not sure you look at him and say that's a guy that's going to get drafted high, but you can kind of see the potential there with his frame and with some of his athleticism. Does another year of college make sense for him from your point of view?
I think so. And I mean, I think Nebraska would welcome him back. I think they want a veteran presence back there in the secondary. And I think, a room that features him and Marcus Buford and, whoever, like a third at Rover, whoever that's going to be, I think it works. So, I mean, if I was in the room personally, I think Nebraska should explore the possibility, but we'll see what happens. Again, this is all very new and happening very quickly.
Well, another name in the portal Nebraska gets, a lot of KC flavor to it, Deshaun McCullough. And, Tim, tell us what he was coming out of a high school, how he landed at OU, and just the prospect Nebraska's getting. I mean, this guy can play a lot of spots on defense. He looks pretty fearsome.
Yeah, so he played out of the Blue Valley School Districts, similar as Dawson Merritt, not the same school, but in the same district. And because at the time his father was on staff with the Chiefs, was a guy that was highly touted, was committed to Ohio State for a good period of time, had, national offers. At the time when he was in high school, everyone was looking for the next Isaiah Simmons, and he kind of fit that, just like a big jumbo athlete at 6'5", that could cover but also defend the run and rush the passer. Bit of a chess piece. There were questions coming out of high school about his physicality. I remember talking to people that saw him often, talking to scouts and being like, hey, why isn't this kid ranked higher? And ultimately it came down to his physicality. But as he's put on muscle at the college level, specifically these last 2 years at Oklahoma, that physicality question's been answered. And so he went to Indiana out of high school because Indiana was able to, they moved out to Bloomington. I believe his father was on staff there for a good bit with his brother Dea, and, was at Indiana for a bit. His father left for Notre Dame, and Deshaun went to Oklahoma when he played the cheetah position in Brett Venables' defense, which is Isaiah Simmons' position when Venables was coordinating the Clemson's defense. So he's a guy that can do a lot of different things in Nebraska's scheme, play anywhere from rover all the way to potentially jack. He's a guy that, I think he could play in the secondary, potentially could play either of the two inside linebacker spots, could rush the passer. I'm very curious to see how Nebraska uses him. In my opinion, I think he's a guy you move around a good bit. But considering the depth at jack right now, I wouldn't be surprised as well if Nebraska kind of just plants him there.
It's Tim Verghese with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And with McCullough, Tim, it sounds like he's a guy that Oklahoma was not expecting to lose, and you go as far as say did not want to lose this cycle?
Oh, no, not at all. And I don't even think it's a coaching thing. I think, you talk, he's missed some time. And you talk to people around Oklahoma, their medical staff down there, has there's been some issues. The part of the reason that you've seen all these wide receiver departures, the reason they dealt with so many wide receiver injuries and injuries across the team this year, sounds like there's some concerns in that medical staff, and that's part of the reason he left, not really because of any on-field issues or anything. I think if it was up to him, he may even stick around because of his fit in that defense.
Well, and your mind starts to wander in that hybrid world. And we all remember Simmons, and there was a Nebraska connection with his family, but Venables and Clemson won out. And with Simmons, he went really high in the draft a handful of years ago. I think he's still down in Arizona, isn't he?
He's up in New York now.
Okay, so free agent deal, so second contract. But yeah, the guy, you can play all three levels, and that's a luxury. And you get him in, and you kind of laid out where he could fit best, and he can really fit anywhere. What's the connection? You mentioned his kind of family history from the KC area, but is this another Merritt-Mosey combination as well?
Yeah, something of that. I think there's a good familiarity there between the Mosey family and the Merritt family with the McCulloughs, just because of, the Chiefs background, prominent football family in Kansas City as well. Mosey's ties, Jamar Mosey's ties in that city run deep. So, this is another one, and I think it's kind of the icing on the cake on this whole KC movement. Like, this was the guy a couple of years ago. I think Nebraska fans would even say was a guy they really wanted, when he was coming out of high school.
Tim Verghese with us here talking some portal work as Nebraska continues their shopping in the transfer portal. They also are off to New York getting ready for the Pinstripe Bowl. And Tim, as we talk other names here, sounds like Dane Key might be down to Georgia and Nebraska. He was obviously in town over the weekend. He said as much on social media. Now it might be decision time for Dane Key. Where do you think the winds are blowing there? Because Dane Key's a guy that Nebraska really likes, high on the board, and be a great pickup at the wide receiver spot.
Yeah, from what I've been able to gather, I think the weekend visit went really well, and I think Nebraska feels they've got a shot. Ultimately, here it's the allure of playing at Georgia and playing for potentially a national championship there. But there's also the girlfriend connection. His girlfriend goes to Georgia, so there's that element of this whole recruitment as well. But I think Nebraska did a good job. I think he's connected well with current players. Fellow portal players and Dylan Raiola as well. I think that, the opportunity to kind of come in and fill in essentially Jamal Banks' role. You look very similar players in my opinion. I think he has a little more upside too. But I think that's something that sticks out. I think it's close. I think it's a close like 50-50 right now. And I think it's going to come down to those two programs. And I'm expecting a decision here at some point this week, if not even later tonight.
Mm-hmm. Tim Verghese is with us from Rivals and Inside Nebraska. Takeaway with Justin Rhett, safety from Georgia. Nebraska's gone to the Bulldog well a handful of times, and MJ Sherman's been the one kid from Georgia that's really kind of stuck and performed. But what's your takeaway with Rhett? And I know Georgia they just kind of keep piling on recruits in any spot, and then that sounds like the case here for Rhett.
Yeah, it was more so of a situation where he just kind of got recruited over. Georgia had the opportunity to go get Ellis Robinson. They brought in another really good DB class this year. We saw starter and Julian Humphrey just get jumped mid-season at cornerback and now transfer out to Texas A&M. It's just that's just the level of recruiting Georgia's doing right now. Rhett on his own right, I think it's a guy that needs some development, and that's part of the reason why he hasn't really seen the field over the past 2 years. A guy with a lot of natural skills and even instincts and obviously athleticism, but a guy that, I think needs some time just to develop into a true position, because he played cornerback primarily in high school, got moved to safety, and I think that's a better long-term fit for him for his length and physicality. We just need to see, because he's a guy that has a lot of clay. We'll just see if, Nebraska can, John Butler and some of the new guys on the defensive staff can get the most out of him, because he's a guy that is going to need some work. We'll just see, what the spring looks like for him.
Sounds like the classic case of let's get this just freak athlete and kind of turn him into a football player. That takes some time, doesn't it?
Certainly, but for some, I've often found in the portal, and it very much varies. It's not like for sure thing, but I've often found in the portal a change of scenery, changing coaching staff, and even just that additional pressure of, okay, I have to make it happen here, or it's not going to happen. I think that can also get the light to click a lot faster for guys. So that's the hope for Nebraska at this point with him is you get that light to click for him. It comes together real quick, over the course of this spring, because, ideally if Nebraska can get production out of him in 2025, they'd like to, but ultimately this is a guy that I think you develop for a year and a half and see what the long-term play is.
Tim, as we start winding it down here, at least this segment, we might need to hold you over. I'm not sure if you're available, but some bowl thoughts from you, if possible. We'll get there in a second. But first, let's talk offensive line. Nebraska's swung and missed on a couple offensive line prospects. They're still in the chase for a couple of them. Want to hear an update, if you have one, Fa'alili, Fa'amoa, or any other offensive lineman you're here in Nebraska's in discussions with.
Yeah, Fa'amoa went to LSU and then went to Michigan over the weekend. I'm not exactly sure on his timeline right now. I know Nebraska didn't really want him to leave campus without making some type of decision. So, and that doesn't really bode well, that he goes to see LSU and Michigan, two programs, somewhat better positioned from a contention standpoint. But I do wonder a little bit with that one, how much the Pauly connection weighs. And if he does take his time with this, does it give Nebraska that opportunity to kind of continue to work his ear and continue to kind of and work on him, because if he makes a quick decision, I wouldn't expect it to be Nebraska. But if he's willing to take some time with this, I could see Nebraska kind of coming back a little bit. But I think at this point, just because of the little break they get now, we're in somewhat of a dead period for the next week or so till January 1st. I think it's going to give the staff an opportunity to kind of evaluate what's out there on the offensive line. I think it's the biggest need left to address in the portal, offensive tackle specifically. So I think they're going to turn over as many rocks as they can to find any potential talent. But they're looking for quality starting talent, and that's tough to find at that position right now. They're certainly being aggressive from an NIL standpoint to try and get it. But it's one of the toughest positions to find in the portal.
Tim, it's not even a money thing. I mean, Nebraska's been right there with some of the big dogs going after the same tackles. It really, truly is a contention thing right now for Nebraska. It's, a year from now, if Nebraska's in better standing record-wise, these might be easier decisions.
Yes, absolutely. Because, Isaiah World is a perfect example. Technically, Nebraska was the highest bidder there. But Oregon, for a guy that has 1 year of eligibility left, is expected, to come in and start. The opportunity to go to Oregon, keep the train rolling, contend for another national championship is a bit different than what Nebraska can offer, where Nebraska is like, hey, we can contend for a Big Ten championship.
Sure, and maybe a Big Ten title turns into a national title, get in the playoff. A lot of distance to cover there. Tim, hang tight. Real quick thoughts on the bowl when we come back.
Sounds good.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity, final show of the week until Friday, as we're back at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino on the road with Amerisports, as we'll be right outside the sports book. Kind of our pre-bowl eve show, 4 to 6. Come see us cross the river. Tim Verghese with us here from inside Nebraska. Rivals.com at Tim Verghese on Twitter. We've hit some of the portal additions, 9 and counting for Nebraska. Tim, we're talking Festivus, the old Seinfeld episode. It is Festivus today. That's the airing of public grievances. And we've gotten plenty of feedback in the stream from our listeners as far as their grievances with Nebraska football 2024.
Not with us, thankfully.
We can get personal too, but we'll start with football. We've seen special teams, we've seen the offense not scoring enough points till Data got here. So I mean, there's a lot of candidates. What would your biggest grievance be with this team that's 6-6?
Yeah, I think just squandered opportunities. You look across especially the front end of the season and the first half of the season. In retrospect, hey, what if Dana Holgorsen was here earlier? What if the holding situation was figured out a little earlier? What if they made the move to Johnny Hole earlier? There's so many different things felt like they squandered some opportunities. I think you could ask Dylan Raiola. There's a good number of throws across the year that he wishes he probably had back that could have changed the season for Nebraska. Isaiah Nayer, the same thing. A couple of drops he'd likely have back. You think about Emma Johnson as well. The usage of him. Yeah. I think squandered opportunity is the best way to put it. That's just with this program right now, it's the margins are so thin. Every little decision kind of counts.
Nope, totally agree. How you feeling about the bowl game? What's it mean to you? What is it? A statement going into 2025, or is it just a duct tape situation for a lot of college football right now? Not in the playoff. Teams not in the playoff.
For some teams, you could see it as a duct tape type situation, but I think for Nebraska, they're going to take this seriously, in my opinion, and I think you're going to see an inspired effort, because for them, they see this as kind of like the bridge to 2025. It's an opportunity for them to kind of showcase Dana Holgorsen's offense, an opportunity for John Butler to showcase his defense. And then for a lot, where in other positions, other programs, some of the seniors and the guys eligible for the draft are opting out. You're not going to see a whole lot of that outside of, Tommy Hill, who's dealing with an injury, and Isaiah Nayer, because, guys like Ty Robinson and Ash Hotmacher, they want to play in a bowl game. They want to experience what that's like. I think we're going to see inspired play from those guys up front. I think John Bullock is going to have, that defense, kind of fired up about playing and getting this opportunity. And it's a favorable matchup. We talked about it earlier today. That'll be up. Me and Steve's preview of the game will be up tomorrow on the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel. But, you look at Boston College and what they're dealing with too, because they've got a bit of a duct tape situation themselves. But offensively, it's very similar to the game plan against Iowa and Wisconsin. Essentially, you have to kind of force Grayson James, the quarterback, to beat you. If you can do that, and if you can limit the run game and force him to throw, you can force him to make mistakes. He's a guy that I've watched dating back to his high school career at Duncanville. Has been pretty efficient and safe with the football this year. But, you rattle him a little bit and you force a mistake, that can start to snowball. We've seen that time and time again from him, from high school to his time at Florida International. So for Nebraska, just don't beat yourselves and, kind of take care of business, defend the run well. My biggest question for them is going to be up front defensively. What do they look like, when Ty and Nash aren't on the field? Because that depth has obviously been taking a serious hit with the transfer portal.
Tim Verghese with us here. And Tim, are you willing to lock in a score prediction?
Ooh.
You taking or you laying the 3.5, Tim? We'll make it go that way.
I don't know.
Next
I mean,
question.
if I'm off the top of my head, I'd say 28-17 Nebraska, but that's just that's just throwing something up right now.
All right.
That's fair.
He says the win, the cover, and wow, 28 points. Look at that.
I do think we're going to see a good offensive showing. I think a full, extra 15 practices. I think Dana Holgorsen having a full month to work with this group, and Dylan Raiola simplify things for him too, and kind of attack with the game plan. I'm expecting, kind of some offensive fireworks.
No, that'll be welcomed, Tim. That'll be absolutely welcomed. Tim, best to you and your fam. Thank you much.
Likewise, guys. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
You too. Tim Verghese with us. Good stuff from Tim inside Nebraska, Rivals.com, and check out the YouTube channel with Inside Nebraska with Steve Marek and Tim Verghese. We'll dive into some bowl thoughts, and we'll get Coach McBride's take here in a little more than 20 minutes. We'll have more of a bowl shakedown preview on Friday, again, from our Friday road show. But, I think the biggest thing with Nebraska, and you hear about it and you've heard about it time and time again with who wants to be there. I don't see a Bill O'Brien football team not being ready to go. Yeah. Okay, so I think he'll have them ready to go. It is going to be about the quarterbacks for me and who can be the most clean. And I think you might see a new and improved and kind of a freewheeling Dylan Raiola, to kind of piggyback off of what Tim was saying, because Dana knows you need to establish the run, okay? And look at all the playoff teams, the teams that won, the teams that blew out the opponents. They got turnovers, okay? But they also set up the run game, so they didn't make the quarterback throw 58 times and go win it himself. It wasn't a one-dimensional thing. So I think Dana you trust, if you're a Nebraska fan, getting Emmett going, getting the run game going, and then giving Dylan some play action and some simple throws to just move the chains, get into some rhythm. And I think with John Butler, I think he was a key cog in that Rutgers game plan where you knew you had to stop the run, and you brought, by any means necessary, enough manpower on that line of scrimmage, Elijah. So you shut down BC's run game, and you make James do the work throwing the football. Away you can go. The brutal equalizer is this Boston College defense. That's Azubuike, the defensive end that leads the nation in sacks. As a team, they have 30 sacks and 3 defensive touchdowns. That's your game changer, where you drop back one too many times to pass, strip sack, end of Iowa game. There's your momentum flip.
I'll also add here with Boston College, the dynamic that's hard to quantify is how many close games they've played in this season. They've lost their fair share of them, but they've also won their fair share of them. I mean, they took down Western Kentucky, which I know it's Western Kentucky.
They beat Syracuse
21-20. They beat Syracuse 37-31. They went and barely lost to Louisville 31-27. They beat Michigan State 23-19. Lost to Missouri 27-21. I mean, so many close games for Boston College. Their experience there. How do you feel about Nebraska in a close game? I'll let you fill in the blank yourself there. That's an unknown quantity
for a change of for a change of script. Maybe Ty and Nash and those seniors finally get one.
Well, and to flip it around here, Boston College has played a lot of close games in the ACC, which we saw what happened in the playoff to the ACC teams.
Well, if BC gets rolling, their wins have been pretty impressive with their ground game. We'll wind down hour one. It's Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie, Santa Charlie in 10 minutes. Jay Moore going to join us as well. Can always find us. Get the podcast downloaded. Take us with Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and just search Hail Varsity Radio. Give us a rating, good, bad, or ugly. We love the feedback. Like and subscribe as well to Hail Varsity YouTube channel. We're back Friday for the pre-bowl show, Friday 4 to 6 at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino in just across the river. So come find us if you're out and about. And we'll be also ready to rock Saturday morning weekend edition leading up to Nebraska-Boston College kick. Reminder about your friends with the Supernovas. Nova Nation, time to get your season tickets. Your single game tickets. The 2025 season is here in pro volleyball. Your champs, the Omaha Supernovas, ready to defend the crown. And don't miss out on the championship celebration unlike any other. And join us for the home opener Friday, January 10th at CHI against the rival Atlanta Vibe and help raise that championship banner. Get ready for world-class talent. That's Olympians, that's NCAA champs, that's All-Americans, plus the pro debuts of some local superstars from here in this volleyball state. Tickets on sale now. All you got to do is log on, supernovas.com, and get your spot in history today. Supernovas.com, Friday, January 10th. CHI, be a part of raising that banner. Playoff thoughts. I know they weren't close games, Elijah, but the home venue was all sorts of juice. I kind of enjoyed the Big Ten and Ohio State shutting up the SEC. And it's pretty evident that you just got to reseed things. You do need to get credit for winning your conference. You do need to include a lot of the conferences, not the 8th place team in the SEC or the Big Ten. I understand that. But you need to reseed it. Even if you are a conference champ, it doesn't warrant, in my opinion, a bye for an Arizona State. Indiana's a playoff team, but they clearly need to work on themselves and quit shooting their mouth off with a cash their mouth can't, or a check their mouth can't cash, as I butcher that. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, it was poetic justice that Indiana got smoked for most of the ball game, and then the action on the field didn't match the narration of off field from Sig on game day. That's annoying.
That's annoying. But at least it wasn't the worst loss of the weekend if you're looking at it from a Big Ten perspective.
That was Tennessee or SMU.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We can come back to reseeding. I don't think we have enough time to fully get into that. One thing I will say, though, is people that were expecting all the games from the first round of the college football playoff were probably a little bit
you could have gotten
uninformed, maybe is the best way to put it.
But you could have gotten better opening round games with a better seeding.
But here's my thing. Look at the FCS playoffs. Mm-hmm. You know what happens in the first round every single year?
Same. It's bludgeonings.
A future championship contender goes and bludgeons a team that snuck their way into the college football playoff and is just happy to be there. And I think Indiana was just happy to be there this year. I think SMU may have just been happy to be there this year. Tennessee, I think, just got the doors beat off them. But that's just a reality whenever you have an expanded playoff in college football.
I think the other crime that is happening is the fact you had Oregon, Ohio State second round.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Hope you're doing okay. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. More thoughts on Nebraska's bowl matchup that looms Saturday against Boston College. Can find us on the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube, where you can watch the show. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Can catch the show that way. Take us with if you're traveling to grandmother's house or wherever. The podcast available for you. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Without further ado, he might have some gifts. I'm sure there's a naughty or nice list, and he could be wearing a Santa hat, but he likes the color red. It is Mr. Blackshirt himself, Charlie McBride. A Monday with Charlie. Coach, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. How are you?
Well, same to you. I'm doing good. I'm doing real nice. The weather's great. And I'm looking forward to getting back, I guess, into the snow. My wife wants to go back, and she wants to watch me shovel snow.
Well, my wife wants to watch me buy her drinks tonight, apparently. So, yeah. So there we go. But you know what is the time of year where we're winding down, and wanted to get your thoughts on a bunch of things, but I want to start off with the bowl game here that is Saturday. Nebraska has landed in New York City. They're already at the Giants' training facility, practicing, getting ready. How do you feel about the bowl game against Boston College?
Well, I think pretty good. I with all the confusion and with the portal and that a little bit, I hope it hasn't affected the players, and they've gone ahead and really worked at getting ready to play, because it looks like Boston College doesn't have much action, and so sometimes with new kids coming in there and that, sometimes you can break it up, but I think some of the things he's worked on, like possibly seeing what the quarterback can do and whether he can play tight end or whether some of those things, and then found out that there's a lot more players there than he thinks there is.
Coach Charlie McBride's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And, Coach, whenever we look at the bowl game here, 15 practices. I want to get your thoughts on just how much can get done. Obviously, Dana Holgerson took over mid-season running the offense, so it's going to be fully his show with 15 practices to prepare. You could say the same about John Butler, who's stepping up and taking over the DC role. I just want to get your thoughts on how different things can look with this team after 15 practices. Realistically, how much can actually get done during that time?
Well, a lot of times, unless there's a lot of contact or something, you can probably get a lot of, I'd say, a third of what you want to do in, and the rest of it you have to do with what they know, best. But a lot of it's going to come off of what they know best. And, so there might be some wrinkles in what some of the things that they're doing. But and I'm sure there might be some kids that are playing different positions, and 15 ought to give them a chance to get comfortable at those positions, especially in the secondary. If any of those guys are going from safety to corner or something like that, it's a good time. And then with the new receiver coach, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I think that they've made a big improvement there, and I expect to see, if the weather's good, see the ball in the air a little bit.
Coach, let's spend a minute on the younger guys. And there's a number of young players that are getting elevated on the two deep just because they're still here, right? You've had some guys depart, but what do you tell a young guy that you're going to use in the bowl game? And it's a little different, but they're still, youth. It's still kind of their first rodeo at the bowl game. It's really this team's first rodeo for a while. But what's the message? How do you get guys to just go play fast?
Well, the first thing you have to do is find out which ones are going to be the ones that are you're going to really have to work with, and that'll take a couple of days. And I think he's already made a bunch of big decisions on who before this, watching the film and doing stuff like that. I think he's probably, so it isn't going to be as hard as they think it is. But I think he's going to find some players that really have, that are opening his eyes. And there's some that maybe are what they thought they were, And so, but that's a big thing. There's always kids that, it's the ones that you're not just sure whether he could go one way or the other. But the ones that he can see can develop, that's what he'll find, or in those 15 days even, and even before that.
It's Coach Charlie McBride with us here. And, Coach, an interesting change this year is that guys that are incoming freshmen can come in. So your TJ Latifs of the world, we've seen a picture that Latif's already with the team. He's out in New York City getting his practices in. It's a new change. Once guys are here in the portal, they can start practicing with the team immediately, though they can't play in the bowl game. It's the same with the incoming freshmen, those early enrollees. They can all get going right away. Just want to get your thoughts on that. How quickly do you know whenever you bring in a guy from recruiting or now the portal, how quickly do you know if you've got a guy or not?
Well, they're going to make up part of a scout team, and you're going to find out a lot about them, just about athletic ability and what you do have there. That's really going to be a thing. I think that those kids have to. They can be a major factor in whether you have a good bowl game or not. It depends on how they practice. If they're practicing hard and not taking any, wooden nickels from the guys that are practicing, and they're knocking them around trying to get them to do, make them good players. The scout team makes a difference in a guy that you can see right away. Usually, if he's got something, it's really going to do it.
Coach, you spent a lot of time in your career coaching offensive line. You also obviously directed the defense. Nebraska is going to have to endure Ezaraku. He is the defensive end from Boston College. As we speak, he's still playing. He's going to give it a go. He leads the nation in sacks, 16 and a half. Their defense overall, 30 sacks, and then 3 defensive touchdowns. Nebraska can be vulnerable at the offensive tackle spot. What's the game plan there to keep Dylan Raiola safe when he does drop back to pass?
Well, I think the thing is that's not going to be as hard as you think it is, because I think there's some players there, that really haven't gotten quite the chance to play. And what it does, it adds a little pressure on them, which is good. That's what you want. So that you'll get a maximum effort out of the person's people or whoever are the people that go to that position or any position. But for the tackle position, I think it's going to be really important that the person that they do find or the people that they find, are getting the job done. And it's going to be important because they're going to make a big difference in whether the offense goes or doesn't go.
Mm-hmm. Coach, we'll kind of dive into some of the names in the portal Nebraska got. And you look at Dasan McCullough, spent a couple of years at Oklahoma, played that cheetah position for Brent Venables that he kind of made famous at Clemson. That's a hybrid spot, a guy that can play that rover position, but also is a good run stopper, but really good also off the edge as a pass rusher. So really can do it all. And Nebraska got a kid that originally was out of the Kansas City region. His dad coached for the Chiefs and then at Notre Dame and at Indiana. And this kid has entered the portal, and Nebraska got him over the weekend. What was what was your secret or trick to getting so much out of that hybrid defender spot? Because you had a bunch of guys that could cover, but they were good against the run, and then get after him on third down, rushing the passer.
Well, I think that he's done it before, and it's not going to be. It's going to be the terminology and all the things that are going to, and where they put them on the blitzes and where it'll be a little different for them. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you the truth. It's going to be if a guy's played in that area and done those things, I wouldn't. 15 days of practice, if he's really getting a lot of work, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
Well, Coach, you look at his frame, 6'5", 230 pounds, can run like a cheetah. Where would you put him in your defense? I know you haven't seen him up close and personal, but just based on the physicals, where do you think he might slot into your defense?
Well, it depends on how quick his feet are and so forth, but that's one place you can put him, is you can put him at a rush end or an end that's going to be play on a tight end, and a guy that's going to be a blitzer, and you can also play him, in the secondary a little bit. He's that kind of size and that kind of, if he has good ability, good flexibility, and things like that. He could even be a good linebacker or something like that. And so you have to really, really study him and find out where he's gonna fit in your scheme.
Yeah, there'll be a spot for sure. What do you think of the playoffs?
The what?
The college football playoffs. What do you think of the weekend of college football?
God, they're all crazy. I mean, the scores are a little different than I thought. I thought they'd be a little, kind of a little closer, but I was happy to see some of those, some of the games that I was just a little disappointed in listening to the Indiana coach talk before the game, when he was talking on TV about us, in the 56-7 game. What he doesn't realize is that it was early in the season, and we weren't even as good a team stuff as he was. He probably practiced all summer. Sound like the way he was talking, and not illegally. And I wouldn't put it past him, but I think I think the way he talked. He thought he was going to win the game, and and I wouldn't go that far because I've been there and I've been on the other end of it where people talk too much about you, and you're sitting there and your players are taking all the stuff that the coach is saying. It can add to your ability to be a little bit. Better and get you there. In other words, they can get faster that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's not good. Well, and I could kind of see Coach Saban was annoyed, and that was one of his coaches for him. That was his recruiting coordinator, was Cignetti for when he got to Alabama. So they got a great relationship. But, yeah, it was a little loud by Cignetti, and that's his personality, but it didn't work out for him against Notre Dame. I want to ask you real quick about your friend Bill Belichick. You worked with Bill's dad. You know him from the coaching circles, and are you surprised he's going to college?
Me too. I thought maybe he'd get into something a little more where he's more of a director or something like that, but I mean, he still has it in him, and if he does, they're going to find out pretty quick, if he does. But I wouldn't say he's going to be there for a long term.
Yeah.
I'd say you can get 5 years out of him. It'll probably be good because I'll tell you what, knowing how it is, and I know how it is, you get old fast. And it takes him. It takes a lot of time. You really, hour-wise, to be on your toes, and you want to be in good enough shape that in the game time comes, you're really on top of it.
Coach, you got a score prediction for us before we say goodbye?
Yeah, we'll win by 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
That's a cover.
That's a cover. Yeah. So 35-21.
I'm what? Huh?
35-21?
Yeah, I was going to say in the 30s. I thought you said something else.
No.
I think that it's going to be. I don't know about the 21 part of it.
Okay.
Because I think if the kids really play hard, I think it's going to be less than 21.
Okay.
It might be 35, but we'll see. We're going to learn something about our quarterback and our other quarterback with a new position, and
sure.
He might be the key to the whole thing.
I love it. Coach, we'll holler at you in the new year. Thank you much. Merry Christmas.
You too, and everybody else, and all the people out there. I hope that everything's positive from them, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody out in Nebraska.
Coach, we love you. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye now.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity, the Blackshirt Hour. One last time for 2024. Jay Moore with us from, of course, Big Red Wrap-Up and standout Husker and NFLer at JMoore44. Jay Bird, I thought you'd be out golfing here as we got some low 50s, but thanks for squeezing us in. How you doing?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, the weather's fantastic. Would like to have been, but junior's off school, so someone's got to have some parental supervision over him this afternoon. So I'm doing that this week, working from home most of the week. So yeah, we got out about a little bit this afternoon, but yeah, we thought about sneaking out and maybe hitting some balls, but it's also Monday, so like courses normally aren't open on Monday, but you got to take it. I'd love to take advantage of the weather. Maybe later this week.
No, that sounds good. Well, just next time you bump into my junior, send him over to babysit your junior so you can, I don't know, sneak off to the course.
Not a bad problem. That's not a bad idea. I did run into him early this afternoon. I could have said, hey, what the guys paying you over at the pizza spot? I'll double it. Go golf for a few hours.
Old Seth and Gregors would be on the horn with you.
See, it's funny because you guys both have the kids at home today. My roommate's a middle school teacher, so he's been home today, so I've also been on babysitting duty. That's been horrible.
If he's a middle school teacher, he's probably about 7 quarts of vodka deep. Bless his heart. Jay, we've got a couple of things to tackle before we talk bowl game and portal additions. Of course, it is Festivus today. We're all kind of Seinfeld fans. So we'll start with the air quote bad news. What's your biggest Husker football grievance in 2024?
Oh, man. 2024 Husker grievance.
You can go back. You can go back years if you want, but figure we'll just keep it in 2024.
Let's be honest. I mean, the last 23 years. I mean, it starts with the 0-1 Colorado game, right?
Yeah.
That chalk that one up, and then you can go just a couple years down the road, and I think the firing of Frank Solich, and then there's all sorts of. I can pick out a couple of my playing days, right? Immediately I go to the 05 Texas Tech game where LeKevan intercepts the ball and then fumbles it, and then I look to the very next year at Texas at home, the snowy game, and T. Nunn gets the first down, they gets a helmet right on the football, and that's fumbles it, and I think a couple plays later they kick a game-winning field goal. So those are easy too, and we can there's multiple ones for every year. But I think if I had to pick, this one from this year. The Iowa game probably sticks out the most to me, just so how it ended, and just because we dominated for 97% of the game, and really 3 plays of that game is what won the football game. So that's I think that one probably takes a cake for 2024. There's kind of just everything that did go wrong for Nebraska in 2024. Just those few plays just mirrored what Nebraska went through in 2024. Just special teams issues, tackling, not making plays at the right time, drops, things like that. So I think the Iowa game would be my 2024 grievance for Festivus.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Well thought out. There's a lot of Iowa. Yeah, it's kind of a microcosm.
Yes, a lot of it. Yeah. Well, Iowa in general, right? That's a grievance. Let's be honest. They're just a pain in the ass. That's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
No other way to put it. Yeah, but that's Nebraska football. It's been a grievance. I mean, there's been finally we get a bowl game to talk about and discuss. But I tell you what, the last 10 years has been a struggle. It's been rough, and but I feel confident that brighter and better days are ahead here quickly.
Well, talking about the bowl game, is that a grievance as well that Nebraska's got Boston College in New York City instead of, say, Oklahoma and Nashville?
Yeah, but I potentially it's either win the Iowa game, or if Michigan doesn't beat Ohio State, I think Michigan's probably in this game, and we're probably in Nashville or somewhere else. But if you take care of Iowa and take care of your business, you're in a much better bowl game. So, yeah, it's a grievance, but it's also you can't complain over or of what you're getting, because it was in your hands to take care of it, and you did for, like I said, 97% of that game, and then Iowa was Iowa, and they beat you. So, yeah, it's not where you want to be, but it's better than being home. Yeah. It's better than what we've dealt with the last 7 years. So I'm excited to watch them play. I really am. I keep almost kind of forgetting about it. I think just with the transfer portal stuff and what's kind of going on here, and just with the college football playoff in general, you kind of forget there's been a bowl game they're getting ready for. But I'll tell you what, it is what it is. I'm excited to see them to go compete and see how this last week of 2 weeks of practices have been for them, and see how some of these younger guys are going to get a lot of opportunities to play, see how they come out and take advantage of the opportunity, and see who's excited about being there, even though it's at 11 a.m. in New York. Like I said, it's better than Detroit. I know that much too. So you better embrace it and have a good time with it. And whether you like it or not, the team, you can use as motivation to go somewhere better next year.
Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. When we talk about wish list, what do you wish for Nebraska here moving forward? Kind of a broad question. We've gone a little negative with the Festivus part, and of course, Mr. Costanza would be happy that we started off the segment with the Festivus mention. But on the Bride side, you mentioned just a second ago, brighter days ahead. What are you optimistic about?
I think you can take how the Iowa game ended, and you can take how the bowl game situation. You can take some of the transfer portal stuff, and you can paint that in a very negative light if you want. Mm-hmm. But I choose not to. I choose that sometimes in these situations where not necessarily great, you can become a better team and become better out of these situations. So that's where I'm choosing to go. I think you're able to kind of addition by subtraction scenarios with the transfer portal. You're able to get some guys who I'm not saying they're bad eggs by any means, but maybe you're able to get rid of some extra weight that might have been weighing the team down a little bit. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud a little bit, and you're able to get some guys that come in here and who are grateful for the opportunity, and we're going to take advantage of it. I think you're also, with these bowl practices with these younger players, they're going to get a shot, and maybe they wouldn't have gotten a shot without some of these portal, these guys that left through the transfer portal after the Iowa game. So there's a lot that comes to it. I think momentum is a huge factor. I think winning this game against Boston College sets you in the right direction for 2025 or fall of 24 and into the fall season for 2025. So there's a lot. I think, and I didn't even mention the coaching staff changes as well. So I think they've got some good hires. I can't speak to whether they're upgrades or not, but I think they're good hires, and they're good replacements for some really good coaches that left this program. So I think that's all a plus. And like I said, I'm excited to see the attitude that goes in this game. These bowl games at this time of year, if you're not in the playoff, it's all about who wants to be there, who's grateful for the opportunities, who's going to attack it. So with that being said, I think knowing Coach Rule and his staff's mentality, I think this team's going to attack it and take the momentum from the game into 2025. So I I don't know how you couldn't be positive about that.
It's Jay Moore with us here. And Jay, I think if you asked Matt Rule his Christmas wish list for Husker football, one of the things that would be included would be locking down every single athlete from both Kansas City and Miami. There's been a strong theme this offseason of getting everybody they can out of Miami and out of Kansas City. I want to focus in quickly on Miami. Did you play with any guys from Miami? I know Jameis Winston once said that anyone who grew up around a large body of water is just different. Obviously, the Atlantic Ocean's right there. Are the guys from Miami just different?
They are, yeah. At Nebraska, I can't remember. There were some Florida guys. I mean, Fabian Washington was in my recruiting class. We were really close. He was from the Tampa area, Bradenton to be exact. They just have a swagger and a competitiveness about them that it's just, I think that just comes with the territory of being in Florida. They're fun to be around. They have this energy that's always good. I'm trying to, guys, I was around Frank Gore with the 49ers, Miami University. I'm pretty sure he's from that area in general. Again, just guys that compete and have great energy about them, and they're kind of just no nonsense dudes. What you're going to get day in and day out from them. So they're just phenomenal athletes, and you kind of tie it all together. Great athletes, great competitors, no nonsense. That usually is the pedigree to make up a really good football player. So, with that being said, I think the more guys you can get from down there, state of Florida, general, the speed is always an awesome thing they have and possess. And I try to rack my brain with some other guys, but I'm sure I crossed paths with other players from down south. But they're just, their ability to compete and that edge they have and the swagger is really, it's something different that you can honestly identify a Florida guy versus a Texas versus a California versus a Georgia guy. Those Florida guys are different, but different in a good way, and different in that they can make your football team a lot better.
What's the word or rep with Texas, with California? You've hit the big three states and really the big four with Georgia included as well. And you're absolutely right. You look at the guys from Florida that have come to Nebraska and played. They have been difference makers, flat out, period, end of discussion. Texas also year-round training and just, a large population. California, man, I think of that speed. I think of that just game-breaking speed. And depending on where you're at in California recruiting, there's also a toughness.
Yeah, totally. I look at the Texas guys. Those guys are able to come in and compete at such a high level early on because of the level of football they play. Texas football is everything. And when you're playing in those big 5A classes and, they're playing, the state championship games we're really just a Friday night game. You're playing in front of anywhere from 20 to 30, sometimes 40,000, depending on who you're playing. So I think their attention to those details, and it's about as close as you can get to a college football program in Texas. That's kind of what always separated those guys. In the toughness, Texas guys are just they're tough. They're country, right? The Cali guys, it's different. They have a swagger about them, athletics, speed. If you're usually from the LA area, there's a toughness about you that you just grow up with and you got to deal with. I think of like guys like Ricky Thanars that came into this program and all the stories he told, stuff he had to deal with, that not too many of us do have to deal with. So that's a whole different aspect. And the Georgia guys are kind of similar to the Texas guys. It's the competitive nature is very, very similar. The programs that they plan are close to Texas. The attention to detail that Texas has is really close to what Georgia has. Just that country toughness that they have. So, those guys are all. I can think of many guys that were great teammates and good friends from every state. That they all had. Really, just comes down to, being a great athlete and being able to compete and having a toughness and having an edge about you. And And then you can just, the best part about it is when you get those guys together, though, too, is just all the crap talking that goes on about which state's better. California is better because of ABC. Texas is way better because of ABC. Florida is way better because of this. And if we played you, it would have been this. And all most players that come out of the NFL out of this state, it just goes on. It's those chats and those discussions and arguments around the training room tables that thousands of times that go on is it's kind of what makes the whole situation. You kind of get everyone that comes together from all these different areas. That's kind of what makes the time spent away from the football field so much fun.
Jay, as we, I guess, just put a bow on this conversation here, we might as well hit the last one and hit Midwestern kids. What defines them? Let me guess. Sneaky athletes, student of the game. They play the game the right way. Am I hitting it there?
Yeah.
It just means more because it's your backyard.
Yeah, you might have been reading my bio there.
Phenomenal motor.
Yeah,
there it is. Yeah,
great IQ.
Yes. Very cerebral, high effort. Doesn't take a play off. Can't be fooled.
Would rather die than lose.
Yeah. Your Midwest guys, again, toughness is always is a strength, right? And we just nailed them. Competitive, just being able to compete, and maybe they're not day one guys, but they find a way to learn and grow and and get to that level. So those Midwest guys are the labels they get are a little different sometimes than the Florida, Texas, and California guys, but that's the fun. They all come together though, and you put them on the field. It don't matter where they're from. It's who's going to work the hardest, who's going to do it the right way, who gives you the best chance to win, and it don't matter where you're from. If you check all those boxes, it doesn't matter if you're from Alaska or from Texas, Arizona, wherever you're from, you're gonna play. So that's just, like I said, just being a part of that culture, that environment, everything, whether it was from college or into the NFL. Everyone has their certain backgrounds they're from, and everyone has their, whether it's colleges they went to or high schools they went to. It's always a unique situation and a fun situation, and all the conversations that were had. That's, like I said, that's might have been the best part about it all.
Jay Moore's with us. Big Red Wrap Up, Hail Varsity Radio at JMoore44 on Twitter. Jay, we'll wrap up here with the bowl game. Nebraska's favored by 3.5. Looks like the two deeps got a nice mixture of guys that want to go out the right way and some young pups in that two deep. I'm anxious to see Keota Davis. I want to see Mr. Benning, and I know Singleton's going to go or supposed to go, but Caleb's been pushing quite a while, and we're excited to see what he can do. Overall, what's your gut tell you? A lot of familiarity between Butler and Bill O'Brien. They are two guys that go back a long time.
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard when you get this amount of time off and you've dealt with early signing day recruiting, transfer portal stuff. You're trying to, the bowl practices. There's a lot that's been going on. I don't envy these coaching staffs a whole lot right now just because of the chaos they've had to deal with. And I think when you look at these bowl games and just college football in general, it's who can handle the chaos the best, who has the best staff, who has the best kind of behind the scenes people. Because that's what's kind of separating. I think the college football is who can kind of deal with all this stuff. Who can you take some of the stuff off your plate and give it to someone else to handle, because there's a lot going on right now. I couldn't imagine trying to mess with it all. But that being said, Boston College has had their some portal transfers. Nebraska's had their share. I don't think Boston College has had the issues with some staff changes like Nebraska has, so maybe you got to give them a leg up there. But again, with Butler being here and being a part of the staff, and I think you're able to kind of piece together a lot of the things you need to do defensively. I think Holgerson getting 14, 15 practices with this offense is going to be fun to see, and just kind of see how that develops, even with the young players, with Dylan, with Emmett Johnson, and I know Nayor's not playing, but with, Borkature has left, Dowdell's obviously left, but just see what he has with those pieces and those young guys, even some young offensive linemen will be fun to see how this all gets pieced together defensively. It's going to be fun to watch Ty and Nash play their last games and see some younger players step up. So I feel good about Nebraska. I really, really do. I like Coach Rule and his aspects and his vision and how he's going to handle things. And I think he always has a plan in place, and he's always prepared for a backup scenario, whatever it is. So I feel strong. I think Nebraska comes out on top. I do. I feel good about it. Special teams could come down to it, but again, I know it hasn't been our strong point, but we've had a few more practices to get things dialed up and ready. But I think Nebraska is just going to be the most prepared team, and I think we have weapons offensively that Boston College hasn't seen yet, and I think our defense is going to play well as well. So, like I said, I'm just excited to see them play and carry some good momentum into 2025.
Jay Moore's with us. Jay, Merry Christmas to you and your fam, bud. We'll holler at you in the new year. Thank you much.
Yep, you got it, guys. Merry Christmas as well, and we'll chat next year.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, we'll be back Friday again at Maristar Council Bluffs Casino Roadshow. Friday, our pre-bowl show, pre-bowl eve. So we're there 4 to 6 on Friday, getting you ready for Nebraska and Boston College. Weekend edition back at you 7:45 a.m.-ish as we lead you into Nebraska, Boston College. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, thank you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to all of you in the stream, all of you along the Hail Varsity Radio Network, our affiliates all over. And we thank you kindly for just an awesome 2024. We'll see if the Big Red can put the exclamation point on it. ESPN2 tonight, Husker basketball, the Fighting Freds against Hawaii at the Diamond Head Classic. So Nebraska's favored by 8.5. There we have it. We doing steak and a beer?
Well, are we going to stay up for it? That's the question. It's a late game, and
I might be on
both,
my third bar tonight, depending on what Mama wants to do.
You and I both have early morning radio tomorrow.
I'm going to try and, I would go home right now and crash out if I could, but no, I'm being summoned downtown. Dude,
I'm going to be up late watching Husker basketball. You're going to be up late hitting the town, and we're just going to be shadows of our former selves tomorrow morning.
We are going to be a pile tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. No, we'll be fine. I will, locally here on KFOR, we'll be rocking and rolling tomorrow's morning show. Can't wait for it. I will bring you a large coffee. I will bring Will Wilson a large coffee.
We'll make it through. It's a half day, Christmas Eve, and then I think we're all off to spend time with our families in the afternoon.
Yeah, we are. Christmas Eve with the in-laws/outlaws. Then Christmas Eve service with my mom. Can't wait for that. And then Christmas Day with Junior and the Bunny. We'll see if one of us ends up tied up. They may gang up on me. Who knows? Usually she's working or I'm working or,
I was going to say, that's kinky. If that's how you want to spend your Christmas, I guess.
Santa brought leather this year. Is that what you're telling
leather
me?
and rope.
That's funny. Usually that's a gift from Clausburn. But we'll be ready for you Friday at 4 from Ameristar. 8.5. Too much, too little, not enough.
Tonight?
Yeah.
The big wild card is the fact that you're playing Hawaii in Hawaii.
You're going to get screwed, officially.
Yeah.
The officials will hose you.
That being said, I think Nebraska's the much better
I think they win, but Hawaii
there.
Probably covers. The over-under is 141.
Yeah, one of those games that Nebraska's in control the entire time, but Hawaii never quite goes away, and it ends up being a 6-point win, something like that. It's about how I'm feeling, too.
Okay, that's fair. But, no, I mean, even like some of the great football teams went over there and spent too much luau time.
It's pretty, don't play Hawaii in Hawaii.
92.8% chance Nebraska wins per the matchup predictor. So, all right.
Just don't play Hawaii in Hawaii. But it as I said earlier,
at least it's not Michigan State.
It's considered a true road game, so it looks better for you at the end of the season. It is way too early to be talking about tournament wins, but you got to start stacking them. You got to get one against Creighton. I think that Indiana win's going to end up looking all right for you.
5-1 in your last 6.
It'd be your first. I guess Creighton's a true road win, but there's a strong Husker contingent that makes its way up there every single year.
Hawaii did play North Carolina. Got drilled by the Tar Heels, 87-69.
I don't think Nebraska is North Carolina.
No, I don't.
But North Carolina is also not.
Don't either. But you like what Essigen's doing, and of course, Captain Morgan's good. Enjoy your Christmas. Thanks so much. Talk to you on Friday.